Gentlemen, what if the one thing your doctor never told you about getting older is that poor blood flow, not age itself, is the real force working against you every single day after 50? It is the invisible wall standing between you and the energy you remember having, the strength that used to come naturally, and the performance that once required no second thought. And what if correcting it required nothing more than mixing 1 or 2 natural ingredients into a tablespoon of olive oil and taking it every night before you go to sleep? No prescription, no complicated routine, no expensive supplements you have to order online and take a handful of every morning. Just a simple bedtime ritual backed by some of the most compelling clinical research in the fields of cardiovascular medicine and male hormonal health. Today, I am going to reveal exactly which ingredients to combine with olive oil, how to prepare them correctly, and why taking this specific mixture before bed could be one of the most impactful decisions you make for your health in the years ahead. But before we get to the recipe itself, let me explain what is actually happening inside your body when blood flow starts to decline, because understanding the problem is the first step to solving it for good. After the age of 50, the walls of your blood vessels begin to change in ways that are gradual, silent, and often go completely unnoticed until the symptoms become impossible to ignore. The inner lining of your arteries, a thin but extraordinarily important tissue called the endothelium, gradually loses both its elasticity and its ability to produce a gas called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is everything when it comes to circulation. It acts as a natural chemical signal to the smooth muscles surrounding your blood vessels, telling those muscles to relax and widen so that blood can pass through freely and efficiently. When nitric oxide production declines, blood vessels grow stiffer, blood pressure climbs, circulation to peripheral areas of the body, your legs, your hands, your brain, your heart, and critically, your pelvic region, all begin to suffer. Men over 50 with compromised blood flow often report the same recognizable cluster of symptoms. Fatigue that no amount of sleep fully resolves, cold hands and feet even in warm temperatures, mental fog that comes and goes throughout the day, and a noticeable, frustrating decline in sexual desire and erectile quality that they quietly assume is simply part of getting older. A study published in the American Journal of Hypertension found that endothelial dysfunction, the clinical term for this decline in nitric oxide production and vessel flexibility, was measurable in over 60% of men above the age of 50. The majority of those men had no prior diagnosis of cardiovascular disease. They were ordinary men who simply felt less like themselves and could not explain why. The problem is quietly widespread, affecting far more men than the medical system typically acknowledges. The remarkable and genuinely hopeful news is that the endothelium is biologically responsive to nutrition. Feed it the right compounds and it responds with measurable, real-world improvements. It begins producing more nitric oxide, blood vessels regain flexibility, circulation improves, and when circulation improves, virtually every system in your body begins functioning with more efficiency and power. That is precisely what this bedtime olive oil mixture is designed to trigger. Now, why olive oil as the foundation? This is not about picking a trendy ingredient. There is very precise biochemistry at work here that makes olive oil the ideal base for this protocol. Extra virgin cold-pressed olive oil contains a unique phenolic compound called oleocanthal, which functions in the body almost identically to ibuprofen in its anti-inflammatory mechanism, but without any of the gastrointestinal side effects or long-term risks associated with pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is one of the primary drivers behind blood vessels losing their flexibility as men age. By reducing this vascular inflammation directly, olive oil literally helps restore the suppleness of your arterial walls from the inside out. Beyond that, olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, specifically oleic acid, which has been demonstrated in clinical research to directly enhance the sensitivity of blood vessel walls to nitric oxide signals. A study published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that daily consumption of extra virgin olive oil improved flow-mediated dilation in men over 45 by a statistically significant margin after just 8 weeks. Flow-mediated dilation is the clinical gold standard for measuring how well blood vessels respond to increased circulatory demand. In plain terms, how well they open up when your body needs more blood flow. Men who consumed olive oil daily showed measurably more flexible, more responsive arteries compared to the control group. This is not simply a good fat to cook with. This is an active vascular support agent in liquid form. And when you pair it with the right natural ingredients at the right time of night, the results are amplified significantly. If you are finding this information valuable, go ahead and subscribe to Wellness Daily right now and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. We publish practical, research-backed content on male health, energy, and longevity every single week. Now let us get into the ingredients. The first ingredient to add to your olive oil is raw garlic. And before you dismiss this as ordinary cooking advice, understand that what garlic does inside your blood vessels when prepared correctly, is genuinely extraordinary. The key lies in a compound called allicin. And here is what most people do not know. Allicin is not present in a whole, uncut garlic clove. It only forms when the clove is crushed, minced, or chopped, which triggers an enzymatic reaction between two naturally occurring substances in the clove, called alliin and alliinase. The moment these two compounds make contact through physical crushing, allicin is born, and allicin is one of the most potent natural nitric oxide boosters and vasodilating agents ever identified in the plant kingdom. Here is what happens inside your arteries when allicin enters the bloodstream. It directly stimulates the endothelium to increase nitric oxide release. It also inhibits an enzyme called angiotensin-converting enzyme, or ACE, the exact same enzyme targeted by some of the most widely prescribed blood pressure medications on the market today. By naturally suppressing this enzyme, allicin allows blood vessels to remain relaxed and open rather than contracting tightly. The result is lower blood pressure and measurably improved circulation throughout the entire body, including the peripheral regions that matter most to men's energy and sexual health. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that aged garlic extract supplementation reduced systolic blood pressure in hypertensive patients by an average of 10 millimeters of mercury after 12 weeks. To put that in context, that reduction is comparable to what many first-line prescription antihypertensives achieve. The difference is that garlic simultaneously improves cholesterol profiles, reduces arterial plaque formation, and supports healthy platelet function. No single blood pressure medication does all four simultaneously. There is one preparation step that is absolutely critical and that most people skip entirely, costing them a significant portion of garlic's therapeutic benefit. After crushing or mincing the clove, you must let it sit exposed to open air for 10 to 15 full minutes before adding it to your olive oil or consuming it in any form. This waiting period is not optional. It is the precise window during which the alliinase enzyme completes the conversion of alliinase into allicin at full concentration. Scientific measurement confirms that allicin levels in a crushed clove reach their biological peak at approximately 12 minutes of air exposure. Add it to food or oil before this window closes, and you are consuming a fraction of the potency. Crush it, set a timer, wait, then mix it in. That one extra step changes everything. Now get ready, because the next ingredient takes the circulatory benefits of this mixture to a completely different level. The second ingredient is cayenne pepper. This is where the science becomes genuinely remarkable for men specifically concerned with blood flow. Cayenne contains an active compound called capsaicin, and capsaicin does something quite specific when it reaches your bloodstream. It activates specialized receptors embedded in the walls of your blood vessels called TRPV1 receptors, and when these receptors are activated, they trigger an immediate and sustained release of nitric oxide, along with a class of molecules called endothelium-derived hyperpolarizing factors. In plain language, capsaicin sends a direct signal to your blood vessel walls, telling them to open wide and remain open. It switches your vascular system into a state of maximum conductance, high blood flow with minimum resistance throughout the entire circulatory network. A study published in the journal Cell Metabolism demonstrated that consistent capsaicin consumption stimulates blood vessel relaxation through this TRPV1 pathway, and participants who consumed capsaicin regularly showed measurable reductions in arterial stiffness within 4 weeks. For men over 50 whose arterial walls have already begun to lose their natural flexibility with age, even modest improvements in arterial elasticity translate into real-world gains in endurance, morning energy, and erectile reliability. Capsaicin also produces a thermogenic effect that is directly relevant to circulation. When you consume cayenne, your core body temperature rises slightly, which prompts the cardiovascular system to push blood more vigorously outward to distribute that heat across the body. This creates a gentle but meaningful circulatory demand that, over time, trains your blood vessels toward better baseline performance. Think of it as a passive cardiovascular conditioning effect happening while you sleep. There is also compelling evidence that capsaicin reduces the oxidation of LDL cholesterol in artery walls, one of the core mechanisms through which arterial plaque accumulates over decades. Research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry showed that capsaicin inhibited LDL oxidation in a dose-dependent manner, meaning the more consistently you consume it, the more arterial protection you build over time. When capsaicin from cayenne combines with the oleocanthal and oleic acid from olive oil, the fat in the oil acts as a carrier molecule, dramatically improving capsaicin's absorption into the bloodstream and extending the duration of its vasodilating effect. This is why mixing cayenne into olive oil rather than swallowing it in capsule form or adding it separately to food produces a more sustained and biologically efficient result. Begin with just a small pinch, roughly 1/8 of a teaspoon, and allow your body 1 week to adjust before increasing gradually to a 1/4 teaspoon. If this is your first time watching Wellness Daily, welcome. Make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below telling us what health topic you want us to cover next. Our community is built on men who take their health seriously, and we would love to have you here. Now let us continue. The third ingredient is cinnamon, Ceylon cinnamon specifically, which is sometimes called true cinnamon and is available at most health food stores and many supermarkets. This is not the common cassia cinnamon found in most kitchen spice racks, so look for Ceylon on the label. Here is why cinnamon belongs in a blood flow protocol for men over 50. One of the most destructive and underappreciated forces working against your circulation as you age is blood sugar dysregulation. Even in men who are not diabetic, insulin sensitivity tends to decline steadily after 40. When blood sugar spikes after meals, excess sugar molecules bind to proteins and fats in the bloodstream through a process called glycation. These glycated compounds accumulate on arterial walls, stiffening them and directly impairing the body's ability to produce nitric oxide. Every uncontrolled blood sugar spike is quietly damaging the very vessels you are trying to restore. Cinnamon is one of the most rigorously studied natural compounds for improving insulin sensitivity and stabilizing blood glucose. A landmark study published in the journal Diabetes Care found that consuming just half a teaspoon of cinnamon daily for 40 days reduced fasting blood glucose by between 18 and 29% in participants with elevated sugar levels. Even in men without diagnosed blood sugar problems, the insulin sensitizing effect was measurable and clinically meaningful. But cinnamon does something else that is even more directly relevant to circulation. It contains bioactive compounds called cinnamaldehyde and procyanidins that inhibit platelet aggregation, the tendency of blood platelets to cluster together and form microobstructions in fine blood vessels. These microaggregations are invisible and produce no dramatic symptoms, but they restrict blood flow through the smallest and most important capillaries, those supplying your heart muscle, your brain tissue, and the erectile tissue that depends on precise, unrestricted blood delivery. Cinnamon helps keep these pathways clear and flowing. Research published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition also showed that cinnamon significantly improves post-meal blood vessel dilation, meaning your arteries stay more relaxed and open in the 2 to 3 hours following dinner. Exactly the window when most men over 50 experience their most pronounced afternoon and evening energy dips, mental fog, and fatigue. Correcting this post-meal vascular response alone can produce noticeable improvements in evening energy and mental clarity within a matter of weeks. Add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon powder to your olive oil mixture. The fat in the oil enhances the absorption of cinnamon's bioactive compounds, and, combined with garlic and cayenne already in the blend, the mixture now addresses blood flow from 3 independent but complementary biological pathways simultaneously. The fourth ingredient is something most men would never think to connect with circulation, but the science behind it is striking. That ingredient is raw honey. Not the processed, filtered, heat-treated honey sold in most supermarkets, but raw, unfiltered honey from organic or local sources. The kind that appears thick, opaque, and slightly cloudy rather than perfectly clear and liquid. Raw honey contains a class of compounds called nitric oxide metabolites, which are essentially precursor molecules that the body converts directly into nitric oxide inside the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels. This makes raw honey one of the very few foods that does not just support nitric oxide production indirectly through reducing inflammation or protecting the endothelium, but delivers the actual raw materials for nitric oxide synthesis directly to the cells that need them most. A study published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that raw honey consumption significantly elevated plasma nitric oxide levels in human subjects within 2 hours of ingestion. The same research noted that these elevated nitric oxide levels were accompanied by measurable improvements in platelet function and a meaningful reduction in markers of oxidative stress circulating in the blood. Beyond nitric oxide, raw honey contains a group of naturally occurring flavonoids, particularly quercetin and kaempferol, both of which have been shown in independent research to inhibit an enzyme called phosphodiesterase 5. If that name sounds familiar, it should. Phosphodiesterase 5 is the precise enzyme targeted by the most widely prescribed pharmaceutical treatments for erectile dysfunction on the market today. By naturally inhibiting this enzyme, the flavonoids in raw honey help blood vessels in erectile tissue remain dilated for longer periods, supporting stronger and more consistent function without pharmaceutical dependency or side effects. Raw honey also has a surprisingly gentle effect on blood sugar relative to its sweetness, because its natural fructose content is metabolized more slowly and its bioactive compounds appear to partially moderate the glycemic response. This means you receive the circulatory benefits of honey's nitric oxide compounds without triggering the arterial damaging spike that would undermine the very improvements you are working to achieve. Add 1 teaspoon of raw honey to your mixture and stir thoroughly right before consuming, as the blend does not fully emulsify and always needs a final mix. Now let us bring all 4 of these ingredients together into the precise protocol you should follow each evening. Start with 1 tablespoon of extra virgin cold-pressed olive oil as your base. To that, add 1 fresh garlic clove that has been crushed or finely minced and then allowed to rest at room temperature for a full 10 to 15 minutes before being added to the oil. This resting period is the step that activates the allicin content at maximum concentration. Next, add a small pinch to 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper powder, calibrated to your personal tolerance level. Then stir in half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. Finally, add 1 teaspoon of raw, unfiltered honey and stir the entire mixture together until it is as well combined as possible. The result is a concentrated, warm-tasting blend with a deep spice from the cinnamon, a gentle heat from the cayenne, a grounded, savory note from the garlic, and a soft sweetness from the honey, all carried on the rich, smooth body of the olive oil. You can take this as a small shot directly on an empty stomach, or drizzle it over a light evening meal. Steamed vegetables, a small salad, or a piece of whole grain bread all work well as carriers. Either method delivers the full spectrum of vascular support compounds your body needs. Taking this mixture before bed is not a random choice. It is timed deliberately to align with your body's natural overnight biological repair cycle. Research published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology confirms that blood vessel repair, endothelial cell regeneration, and nitric oxide system rebalancing all occur predominantly during the deep phases of sleep. By delivering the specific compounds your vessels need in the hour before you fall asleep, you are loading your system for its most productive repair window of the entire 24-hour cycle. Blood pressure also follows a precise circadian pattern. In metabolically healthy men, it drops by 10 to 20% during sleep, a phenomenon called the nocturnal dip, which is strongly associated with lower long-term cardiovascular risk and better overall arterial health. In men over 50 with vascular dysfunction, this nocturnal dip is often blunted or entirely absent. The allicin from garlic and the capsaicin from cayenne both support the vascular relaxation response that enables this dip to occur reliably. Over weeks of consistent evening use, this can help recalibrate your blood pressure rhythm toward a significantly healthier and more protective pattern. What can you realistically expect? Within the first 1 to 2 weeks, many men notice a warmth returning to their hands and feet, a direct sign that peripheral circulation is improving. By week 3, energy throughout the day feels more stable, particularly in the afternoon. By week 4 and beyond, morning vitality becomes more reliable, mental clarity sharpens, and sexual function, both desire and physical response, grows more consistent and predictable. These are not dramatic overnight changes. They are the gradual, cumulative signs of a vascular system beginning to work the way it was designed to. After 60 to 90 days of consistent use, the difference from where you started is meaningful enough that most men are reluctant to stop. Before we close, let me share 3 additional habits that will compound the results of this mixture considerably. First, break up your sitting time. Research published in the American Heart Association journal Circulation found that replacing just 30 minutes of sitting per day with light walking improved endothelial function and flow-mediated dilation by a measurable margin within 2 weeks. You do not need intense gym sessions. A 20-minute walk after dinner is enough to trigger a cascade of vascular benefits that compound every time you do it. Second, address your magnesium intake. Magnesium is required as a cofactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, including those directly involved in nitric oxide synthesis and blood vessel relaxation. Many men over 50 are chronically deficient without knowing it because standard blood tests frequently fail to detect intracellular deficiency. Pumpkin seeds, dark leafy greens, almonds, and a small piece of quality dark chocolate all provide bioavailable magnesium that works alongside this mixture. Third, take hydration seriously. Blood is approximately 83% water, and even mild dehydration increases blood viscosity, forces your heart to work harder, and reduces oxygen delivery to every tissue. Steady hydration throughout the day, combined with limiting alcohol in the evening, will support the nocturnal blood pressure dip and the vascular repair cycle this protocol is built around. Gentlemen, poor circulation after 50 is not an inevitability. It is not simply what aging looks like. It is a correctable physiological condition, and you have considerably more influence over it through nutrition and consistent daily habits than the medical system typically communicates. This olive oil mixture, combining raw garlic, cayenne pepper, Ceylon cinnamon, and raw honey, is not a supplement or a shortcut. It is a concentrated delivery system of natural compounds your endothelium is biologically designed to respond to. Compounds that reduce arterial inflammation, stimulate nitric oxide production, stabilize blood sugar, improve blood viscosity, and prepare your vascular system for the overnight repair cycle that should be happening every night. Here is the challenge. Take this mixture every evening for the next 30 days. Combine it with a daily walk, steady hydration, and magnesium-rich food. Give your body one complete month of consistent support, and then honestly assess how your energy, your clarity, the warmth in your extremities, and your overall vitality have shifted. The results will speak for themselves. Thank you for watching Wellness Daily. If this video gave you something useful, please give it a like and share it with a man in your life who needs to hear this. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next one.